So for those of you who have just joined us, again, my name is Courtney. I actually may have met many of you at a lot of our admission events, either on campus or around the country in April. I am our Senior Associate Dean and one of our Directors of Admission. I'm also a graduate of Oxy myself, so I'm certainly very biased in my excitement about what it means that you all are coming to be part of this community in the fall. And so allow me to welcome you also as an alum of the college and someone who is a member of the Oxy community alongside you. We have hopefully already reminded you a few times about the new student website. And I know you may have been using this site in April when you were thinking about visiting the campus and coming to different programs and, submitting your decision, especially for first-year students. Transfer students, you might already be on the site as you think about, finishing out all those details and making your commitment to Oxy in the fall. We're going to spend time on this website, though, today, specifically in the new student guide, because this really is the resource for every piece of information that we are going to share with you this summer. So if you first go to oxy.edu/new-students, this is kind of the home base of all things, and it's pretty easy to remember, so I know you'll be able to get there. But as you scroll down, on the top of our navigation bar, this new student guide link is where we're going to start today's conversation and is really kind of your first stop for information that is going to be relating to these next few months. Our new student guide is online only. This allows us to make sure we have the most up-to-date information, that we can make sure things are accurate, that we can be flexible in things that might change around us, as we'll talk about more today. And so I just want you to really get in the habit of not only knowing this is a resource, but realizing that it allows you to also yourself peruse the information whenever it is convenient to you. And we are always available to answer questions to that. So this is certainly not in place of us as human beings, but it is hopefully just a good starting point. And so let's get into that. The first page of our new student guide is the academic calendar. I think this is really, really helpful when you are planning ahead. And I know there's already been lots of conversations just about things like flights and schedules and travel and getting to and from campus. So being able to see the dates for the fall, including move-in day, a special save the date here. If you see homecoming and family weekend, the dates are listed. So maybe families want to know when you can be coming back to campus to check in on how your new student is doing at Oxy. You can also look ahead and see the first day of classes for the spring semester. You can see when the residence halls close before the holiday and the winter break between semesters. So just really helpful tools for planning. So that is on the academic calendar page. Now this to-do checklist page is probably one of my favorites because it might be the page I've spent the most time on, but we're truly making sure that every single date and deadline that applies to our incoming students is listed here. If there are new dates, they will be added. If there are links for these dates, they will be updated. So for example, joining us today is in this calendar. We have an exciting information session happening online tomorrow for some of our special programs, some of the immersive programs, and even an online course that is happening for free this summer. So you can see information about all these dates, but also deadlines for the forms you need to submit as incoming students for when you need to upload things to your Oxy accounts. So taking placement exams, all of this information is kind of summarized in this to-do list. Scrolling down, you'll see there are other information that we will be adding into that checklist as we confirm dates and work with our partners on campus. So again, the advantage of having this online is we really get to update it for you in real time as we go throughout the summer. I know we were all very excited to get an email last week about the housing process at Oxy. And as a residential community, living on campus is a really, really important part of the Oxy experience. So in that email, but also here on the housing page in the new student guide, you can see all the instructions, and you would submit your housing form by July 1st. This applies for new students, both for first-year students and any of the transfer students who have requested housing. So this is a very similar amount of information that was in the email. And so just really knowing that the instructions are here, the links to the forms are here, is just going to simplify that. So you want to make sure that housing form is submitted by July 1st. A part of living on campus is also, of course, eating on campus. And Oxy has a fabulous dining hall. In fact, you may have sampled some of their great food if you were with us on campus for one of our events in April. We actually have a nationally ranked campus dining program. We are ranked number 8 best campus dining in the country, which is something we're very, very proud of, and certainly is a huge advantage to our students. So one of the things your students will be doing if they're living on campus is over the summer, they will choose their meal plan. The way meal plans work at Oxy is they're considered a debit system, which means students have an actual amount of money they can spend on their meal plan throughout the semester, rather than like a number of meals they can eat. So at some schools, maybe you check in and you eat one meal at a time, whereas at Oxy, we know that our students are going to access their meals on a way that works for their schedule. You know, maybe that's a custom pasta order for dinner one night, or maybe that's a smoothie before studying or before meeting friends, or whatever that might be. So it's really based on kind of your individual food preferences and your individual times. And we know our students have really enjoyed that. So you will then choose a meal plan that fits with your schedule, with your plans. Things gives you what you need. Lots of more information will be coming about that soon. Another email you got last week was about advising and course registration. This is also very, very important information because we do have a deadline to submit your advising form by July 1st. And you'll notice that July 1st has kind of mini form dates attached to it. So that's why when you go back to that to-do page, you can see all of the things you want to have finished by July 1st. And this advising information form is one of those things. Everyone who comes to Oxy is assigned an academic advisor who's an Oxy professor that will meet with you in person during orientation. So this advising form is really critical because it allows you to tell us what are those academic areas of interest that you want to make sure we assign you an advisor from. You will then, after you meet with your advisor at orientation, be registering for your courses. So you really get to actually sit down and talk to somebody, get their input, talk to them about your interest areas before you make those class selections. And that's something that I think really just represents the relational approach at Oxy, kind of the ways we try to actually work with our students face to face. Now, that being said, and I should also mention, don't worry about those registering for those classes. There are spots held for all incoming students. We know you're going to be able to get the classes you're interested in, and there's a lot of planning that goes into that. That being said, though, there are 2 special programs for the fall that do require you to sign up early. So for entering first-year students, and let me scroll down and even show you where that is on this advising page. There is a California immigration semester. So this is an immersive semester where actually all 4 courses that you take are related around the theme of immigration in California. We also have this course called Envisioning and Enacting Health Justice. And that's an immersive course that actually counts for 2 courses. In either of these cases, you would need to sign up by June 10th. And so since there's a lot of information about that, we're having an online information session tomorrow, so you can learn more about it. You don't need to register for that one. You could just click this link and join us at 5 o'clock Pacific time tomorrow to hear about those programs. But since they require registration before you get to meet with your advisor, that's why we'd love for you to join us for the info session. And just like with today's webinar, if you're not able to attend, we will have the link in the same place of the video that you can watch the recording, so you will not miss any of that information. One other really interesting piece, just while we're on the subject of advising and courses, is that this summer, our first-year students also have access to a free online 1-unit course taught by faculty from the health justice program. And so if you're really interested in this health justice subject and you want to dive into that now, that online summer course starts July 5th and goes to August 5th. You'd be able to meet other incoming students prior to when school starts, meet some professors. It's free and you get a unit that applies to your total credits at Oxy. So it is a really exciting program. And that's another thing that they'll be talking about tomorrow. So definitely don't hesitate to check that out. Now, one last thing while we're on the subject of advising is the first-year students who are coming to Oxy do need to register for their first-year seminar prior to the start of school. This is actually something that is really special to Oxy. The first-year seminar is a course that all of our incoming fourth-year students take, which really focuses on the research and the writing and the critical thinking skills that we know you're going to use for your 4 years at Oxy. But just like with our other core requirements, which you will become really familiar with, the first-year seminar is not a single class. So in fact, as you can see here, we have over 24 that are offered. And each of these programs, our faculty get to design themselves, and you get to choose the one that you're most excited about. So there's some amazing subjects that are available, and you can go to the website and peruse all of them. What's going to be really important, we're going to have you sign up for this over the summer on June 20th. And so what we found is that when we open the registration form for the first-year seminar, it tends to go real fast. So our advice is that you pick maybe the top 3 or 5 first-year seminars that you're excited about, and then you log in right at 9 a.m. Pacific on June 20th so that you have the best chance of getting what your first choices are. But with so many great choices, I know that there's going to be a lot that you're excited about, and we're really looking forward to that. So that will be the one class that our entering first-year students choose over the summer, unless they are interested in these immersive programs, which include more than one class in them. Otherwise, in summary, the rest of your registration will take place during orientation as you've met your advisors, because you did a great job filling out your advising information form, and we're able to connect you with a professor that you'll work with and you get to campus. Now, continuing through the new student guide, and you'll be with me just for a few more minutes before we bring in some of our other panelists. I do want to point out the health and safety page. We're going to talk more about this today because, of course, COVID is still something that we are all handling and dealing with. And so we want you to know how the college responds to that, how we've been responding to that. But health and safety at Oxy is certainly much bigger than just our response to COVID. Something you'll become very familiar with as your student is at Oxy is what we call our culture of care. And that just really represents how the campus community is here to support not just the physical safety of our students, but their wellness, their health, their academic success, their emotional success, their friendships, their partnerships, and just making sure that they're getting the support and the resources they need. And I think this is a nice way to just get introduced to that, especially with the many offices and services available through the Dean of Students office. We'll learn a little bit more about Emmons Wellness Center when we hear more about our COVID response later today. I also just want to highlight Oxy has a really unique and amazing campus safety team, and that these are actual staff members who are part of the Division of Student Affairs. So these are not contracted security or even like city police. These are staff who work at Oxy and are focused on the development, but also the support of our students. And so while they do provide really fabulous patrols and do connect as first responders with police and fire departments in the city, they also are the ones who, provide us escorts if we're walking around the campus in the evening or, walking to a home in the Oxy neighborhood, who are our first call if we've locked our keys out of our offices or our residence halls. They're the people who know us and recognize us and really are as excited about our students being on campus as we are. So just want to highlight that that is another great resource at Oxy. All Oxy students are required to have health insurance, as well as to submit proof of immunizations and vaccines, and this does include the COVID vaccine. So we will talk a little bit more about that today, but that is a requirement for all students who come to Oxy. A lot of students come to Oxy from many different backgrounds, as we've pointed out, and there may be students who are just going to be seeking some different accommodations at Oxy. Some of those could be in regards to housing. Some of those could be in regards to academic support. Maybe these could be for medical or physical or psychiatric needs. And so the first place to go as you think about all these things is the disability accommodations page on our site. And so we ask everyone to start by submitting this request for accommodations form. And so then whether that's related to your housing or whatever else, you also want to submit that form by July 1st, and that way our team is able to connect you with all of those necessary steps, as well as move you through the next process in a way that is appropriate with whatever these requests are. Another important page of the new student guide, of course, is the costs and billing page. So I definitely encourage you to review this as a family just to get a sense of the fees and the calendars and how billing works. So we hope that is really useful for you. And then I want to point out this summer communications page. So we know that there are a lot of emails coming your way, and we're going to do our best to really start synthesizing that information as efficiently as possible. But if you are worried that you have missed an email that we have sent you, well, do not fret, because there is this amazing page that has an archive of every message that has been sent. So for example, thinking about today's webinar, if you wanted to see the invitation because you remember there was a webinar that you wanted to register for and you can't find the email, well, no worries, because you can go and find the email on our archive and click whatever link you need to as you go into that. So this is going to be a really, really, really helpful resource for you. And I think a page that you can really bookmark and spend lots of time on and make sure you're not missing out on any information. Now that's our kind of not in depth, but hopefully helpful overview of the new student guide. And I'm glad we were able to give you just kind of a visual of really how much information is in there. I know though there's a lot of questions and a lot of excitement about what the actual move-in and orientation process is. So we're going to spend some more time in our session today really focusing on that. And to get us started, I'm going to invite my colleague Marcus Rodriguez to join us on screen. He's our Assistant Dean of Students and the Director of Student Leadership, Involvement, and Community Engagement. And Marcus is going to first be talking to us about move-in and new student orientation.
Thanks so much, Courtney. Oof, I love that new student guide, all those links. It's really incredible what you all have done. So just exciting to follow that. Hello, everybody. Again, my name is Marcus Rodriguez. I am the Director of Student Leadership, Involvement, and Community Engagement, which is all things student life and activities. So what we do in our office is support Greek organizations, clubs, or those orgs as well, student government, and then your typical student life activities that are happening in and around campus. That's really what we focus on in regards to community building and community engagement. We have a apparatus too that also talks about what it means to be civically active and what it means to be mobilized as a student leader on campus, but also a voter within the community. So a lot of different things that we do within SLICE, but the most important thing that we do is orientation and making sure that we get students engaged and involved very early on during their time at Occidental College. And so when we start thinking about orientation in that way, it's really grounded in purpose. And what we want to do is most definitely create a dynamic, celebratory, and welcoming environment. That's what we're doing. We're creating a space where students explore how to make informed academic decisions and are responsible for their choices. And they really tap into these resources. So when Courtney's talking about this culture of care that we have, that's just an extension of a support system that we have here on campus that's built out very early on and something that we're talking about with students right away. So when we talk about our orientation goals, we're super specific about it. It's about building excitement, reaffirming the choice that you all have in coming to Occidental College. We demonstrate that we're a welcoming, engaging, and inclusive campus. We're providing this framework for just years of success through the communication of our expectations, norms, and standards here at the institution. But we also honor this distinctive interdisciplinary, multicultural academic program, the rigor of which I know that you will be successful in. So celebrating that while also introducing this culture of care, high impact involvement opportunities, and leadership development programs. So we also identify some shared operations in regards to and around social justice, cultural competence, engaged citizenship, and we also educate students about sexual misconduct and discrimination, harassment, and retaliation policies. So that's what we're looking at in regards to orientation. Now, what we did is also refurbish our website to be as specific as also documenting our intended outcomes. So if you go to the new student orientation webpage, you can take a look at those as well. Now, what you're also going to find on that page is an articulation of what Kickstart Oxy is. So Kickstart Oxy is a summer program that we developed mid-pandemic to make sure that we had meaningful, intentional touch points with our community. And so what we decided is looking at this year, we said, hey, we still want to have that Kickstart Oxy experience. Now, it's not mandatory, but it is highly suggested. Please be a part of these Kickstart Oxy programs. They're going to be on Zoom, they're virtual, and then what we have is this registration is going to be up there, but recordings. So they're going to be available to anybody because, again, like Courtney was talking about, we do have so many different time zones here. So we're going to post those up, post sessions so that people can take a look at those. And so what you'll see too on our webpage is sessions about services and support at Emmons Wellness Center. And you're going to hear from Devin in a little bit. Kickstart Oxy is also going to have disability service and academic support information, transfer student information, information that, Courtney mentioned, first year seminars and Oxy's core program, the community book program, the work study award, student employment, first year student employment programs. And of course, there's also self-directed learning resources regarding the Tonga tribe, which Oxy is on the land of the Tonga people. So we want to make sure, acknowledge and celebrate and recognize that. And so there is some self-directed learning resources there as well. So please make sure that you familiarize yourself with that web page and visit that often. And like I said, we're going to go ahead and send out notification when the Zoom link registration is available. So coming soon. Now, another part of our orientation is a pre-orientation experience called LA Engage. Now, LA Engage is limited for many different reasons, one of which too is we just are looking at Los Angeles and being very responsible in regards to how many students we're going to bring onto a bus, into a charter bus, to go out into the community of Los Angeles to engage in, for example, the first 3 trips that we have pre-orientation are Cali Coast, we have Queer LA, and we also have Icon LA. And you can see those and those descriptions on that LA Engage webpage as well. So take a look at those so you can get an idea of what that looks like. Because even though we have these 3 things that are happening pre-orientation, the LA Engage experience happens throughout the academic year. So there's going to be several more trips that are going to be going to similar places and sporting events around the greater Los Angeles area. So students will be prompted to register for those. And then if you've gone on a trip before, we prioritize those that haven't as we move through the academic year with LA Engage. Now, always when we do these, we provide transportation, we subsidize tickets, but also what we're highlighting throughout the week as well with LA Engage are events that are happening in the local community. Something a student might want to go to on their own, whether they're taking public transportation, using our zip cars, or using Bengal Bus. There's things that are happening all the time. So I don't want anyone to feel like if I'm not doing LA Engage pre-orientation, that you're missing out, because there's so much more to offer in the fall. And so also when we're looking at the in-person new student experience, and again, we can talk a little bit more about this later, or I can take some questions, or we can talk offline. Those individuals that are coming in just a couple of days early for LA Engage are also going to be coupled with the events that are happening with new student orientation. So that's everyone. Everyone's coming together for new student orientation, and we all are joining in these O-team clusters. Now, I want to talk about these O-team clusters because your students and students that are on this call as well, you can expect to have communication very early on with your O-team leader. Now, that O-team leader is leading a group of about 20 students that we're going to start engaging with before you even come onto campus. So you'll have an opportunity to have that connection so that when you are coming onto campus for move-in day, you're able to move in, receive information and support and resources from all of our colleagues on campus that are going to be there to support you through that move-in process. And then all of these events that we're having are going to be coordinated with this orientation team. So you'll always be together, networked with it, whether it's in Slack or group text. You're going to be connected before you're even on campus. That will also provide an opportunity within clusters for students to communicate with each other and start building relationships early on within those small peer groups. Now, what to expect on move-in day? We're trying to be bombastic. We want to hype it up. I know that we're still mid-pandemic, but we're going to be safe, but we're going to be celebratory. Once you come onto campus, you're going to come to a big welcome center that's built out on the JSC quad. We're really excited to see what that's going to look like. And it's going to be everyone out there from giveaways to check-ins, the resource tables, the directives from the O-team leaders, your residential education and housing support staff, the mask, all of those people are going to be out there just to make sure that you're having a good time, but also getting the information that you need and making sure that you have directives in regards to where you need to go and where you need to check in. So it's going to be an exciting time, and we're super stoked on the fact that you're going to get moved in and then have the ability to take a little breather, but join us back in our Greek Bowl for a Welcome to Oxy celebration hosted by the President's Office. So that's really exciting as well. So we have all new students and their families joining together in the Greek Bowl for that celebration. Now, of course, we're going to have more activities that evening as well available to students, and you can see that in-depth schedule on our webpage. So again, visit our new student orientation webpage, check that out. But I do want to highlight a few things here. Day 1 and day 2, we have our academic fair, and it's going to include support sessions. I wanted to point out to parents and families that are on this call as well, that the academic fair is actually planned so that families can join in that, should they want to partake in that process. And then after that, there's a reception with both families and students called Sweet Send-Offs. I'll let Dana talk about that a little bit more later, but I also want to say in our day 2, those support sessions continue on with those small group deconstructing, having that peer-to-peer every single evening where students can talk to each other about exactly what they experienced and how they really felt about it. Beyond that, what we do have is an Equity and Justice Day. Now, this is a new addition to orientation, but I think indicative and demonstrative of really what we want to do at Occidental College, which is be specific and intentional about the sessions that we have in relation to equity and justice. And so when you have this, capacity building, how to be an anti-racist, or you're talking about religious pluralism, or you're talking even about harassment and discrimination, how do we have those conversations in a meaningful, high impact way? Now, that's something that we talk about regularly. And so dedicating a whole day to this, I think is, again, meets what our expectations are of the institution, but also many of our stakeholders who we've also talked to about having an Equity and Justice Day. So this will include experts both from the field, colleagues that we have in higher education, and of course, guest speakers and facilitators that are going to host workshops for students as well. So I wanted to highlight that day. And then of course, day 4, you're looking at placement exams and advising, super crucial as well. So when we're looking at orientation in general, and I'm thinking, okay, we've got the Kickstart Oxy, we got a little pre-orientation trips that are happening with LA Engage. We have orientation proper, traditional orientation. What we don't do at Slice is say, awesome, we're a week in, we've done orientation. Rather, what we're dedicated to doing, and we have students on staff that stay with us throughout the academic year, those orientation program coordinators create touch points throughout the year to make sure that students are truly feeling a sense of belonging. This is involvement, engagement opportunities, and the communication is tailored to encourage that involvement and that touch point. So the orientation program isn't done before the first week of classes ends. Rather, it extends through the first year and up until actually the end of the second year when students declare a major. For us, it's important to have those touch points that are intentional, that are tailored. And for us, it's not just about retention, but really about student development. We're taking a holistic approach that looks like we can have fun, we can have leadership development, we can have cultural competency development, and the evolution of self. Those conversations can happen continuously as part of what we consider an orientation process into Occidental College that takes 1 to 2 years for students truly to root themselves here in the institution and have a comfortability, not just with the support systems within Occidental College, but in comfortability engaging with the city of Los Angeles as well. And that could be culture, arts, entertainment, but it could also be community-based learning. So at the end of the day, this is what the orientation process looks, and this is how involved we are in the student experience through the summer and then up until declaration of major. So again, just really excited, obviously, to make sure that we give you the best experience possible. And so I know some people have been emailing me on the side. Continue to please reach out offline. I've taken calls, emails, I'm even texting with some folks. I encourage that engagement to continue. So Courtney, appreciate the time as always. I'm going to turn it back over to you for the next introduction.
Thank you. And I will invite Marcus back because I know we'll have some time to answer a few more of your questions today. First, I want to mention that some of our students who are joining us now and many of our incoming class did attend high school outside of the US. So the majority of you will be invited to also partake in an international orientation program that would start on August 16th. So you would come together for international orientation and then stay and be part of new student orientation with the remaining incoming new students. If you are a student athlete and you are participating in a fall sport where you would be coming to Oxy in advance of orientation to begin practice, which does happen for a few of our fall teams, you will hear directly from your coach. So you can be in touch with them. They'll be the ones providing the pre-orientation and move-in information for those practices for those early arrivals. Student athletes also have medical clearance requirements in order to meet NCAA compliance. So all student athletes will be receiving information directly from their coaches about those required forms and testing as well. And so I just want you to be on the lookout for those. As Marcus mentioned, there are parts of our orientation program that we also want to make available to the parents and families of our incoming students. We know that our parents and families were a big part of the years coming to Oxy, and that's not going to end when they're at Oxy. In fact, we hope that parents and family members feel like they are part of the Oxy community themselves. So we're going to now turn it over for a few minutes to Dana Brandsey, who is the Director of Alumni and Parent Engagement, to talk about family orientation. Dana is also another Oxy alum herself and is also, I know, very excited that you are coming to Oxy.
Thanks, Courtney. Thank you so much. Yeah, hi there. As Courtney mentioned, I'm Dana Brandsey, Oxy class of 2002, and I have served Oxy for over 13 years, and I am pleased to oversee the Alumni and Parent Engagement Program. This August, we're looking forward to meeting our newest families. Today, I want to share a view into our new family orientation program, as well as our early arrival programs. We have 3 different family program dates. We have our student athlete move-in. As Courtney mentioned, some of our athletes will come in advance. We have our LA Engage move-in day, and then our new student move-in day. So I'm just gonna take a deep dive into some of these programs and what to expect. Really, whenever you're coming to campus for the orientation, it's an opportunity for us to provide you families the chance to connect with campus partners, learn about Oxy's resources, and meet with some of our leaders. Something to note, particularly for our new student move-in day, is that all of our programming is going to be running concurrently to the student orientation schedule. So your student's going to be off doing something, and we're going to have some opportunity for you to get to know Oxy. So jumping into the new student athlete move-in day, that's Thursday, August 18th. We are going to have a parent reception for student athletes and coaches. And followed by that, we're going to have an opportunity for parents to meet with 2 of our deans in a session called Your Student is in College, Now What? And again, this will be a great chance to meet with Deans Rob Plott and Wendy Sternberg and learning everything that you need to know from academic life to student life and everything in between. Our LA Engage move-in day is Saturday, August 20th, and that is going to follow a pretty similar format as our student athlete arrival program. We'll have that wonderful session with Deans Rob Plott and Wendy Sternberg, followed by a parent reception in the late afternoon. Now, on Monday, August 22nd, that kicks off the new student move-in day programs. If your student came early for this new student, the athletes, or the LA Engage, and your schedule permits you as the family to come back to campus on August 22nd and 23rd, you are more than welcome to do so. We would love to have you. We have a great lineup of programs set up for families. We're gonna have a welcome center and check-in. No matter when you come to campus, we're gonna have a parent check-in area, and we are excited to give you some Oxy swag, confirm your contact information so we can keep you in touch with all of the family information that we can provide. We're going to offer campus tours. We're going to have a tour of our special collections. We're going to open up our archives and take a sneak peek into Oxy's history. That's definitely a favorite of ours. Athletics will be open for families to do a drop-in. We're going to have an opportunity for you to have lunch on your own, hopefully in our marketplace, taste that tasty cuisine that Courtney was talking about from our campus dining partners. We're going to have that session with Rob and Wendy about student life and academics. In the afternoon, we are so thrilled to be able to provide a panel that has students and parents on it. So an opportunity to hear about Oxy from both of those perspectives, a chance to meet with our Emmons Health professionals. And that evening is going to conclude with a parent reception and then a welcome to Oxy community celebration. And you definitely won't want to miss that. On Tuesday, August 23rd, we're going to have a parents' coffee that's hosted by our Parents Council. It's just an opportunity to meet with other Oxy families. We lined up a session for families to meet with our Vice President of Equity and Justice, Dr. David Carrion Bradley. We have this wonderful program at Oxy. It's a community book program where a book is selected and all members of our community are encouraged to read through it and participate in dynamic conversations about it. We're going to have a community book program information table that can tell you all you need to know about it. We're going to have opportunities for families to go and learn more about our faculty research. And then again, another opportunity for campus partners, for you to hear from our campus partners, such as our Career Center, pre-health, and our fellowships. Mark has mentioned this academic fair, which will be a really terrific opportunity to get to know all of the different programs that your student can partake of on the academic side of the house. And then in the evening, from about 5:30 to 6:30, we're going to have that sweet send-offs. And this is a wonderful opportunity for you to spend just a little bit more time with your student and then give them a big hug and kiss, high five, wish them well. And then that is the time for parents to depart campus, since the rest of the orientation programming is geared for our students. I'm really excited to meet our Oxy's newest families, and I really look forward to seeing you in August.
Thank you, Dana. We're so excited about that. And so speaking of August and all of these great events and move-in, just knowing that to make this possible, there are, of course, a lot of things to think about and look ahead, especially in regards to COVID. We are all, despite our best efforts, still living in a world where COVID exists, and we take the health and safety of our community very, very seriously. And so I want you to be able to have some idea of what to expect, especially how that relates to move-in. So please welcome Devin Sakamoto, who is a Master's of Public Health and serving as our Assistant Dean of Students for Emmons Wellness Center, where she's been with us this year, and a critical member of our COVID operations group. So just thrilled that Devin can be here to talk a little bit about what to expect.
Thank you, Courtney. Thanks for having me. So I'm Devin Sakamoto, Assistant Dean of Students for Emmons. Emmons is our student wellness center. It provides both primary medical care and also psychological counseling services, including individual therapy, group therapy, and psychiatric services. We also have a large role in managing our student health insurance plan, as well as managing campus COVID safety protocols. So let's talk a little bit about COVID. As Courtney mentioned earlier, Oxy does require that all students, staff, and faculty be vaccinated and boosted against COVID-19. And we require that proof of vaccination prior to arrival on campus. So your students will receive a message with links, and I think we've already seen the link to the My Health portal here on the new student guide. But you will receive messages about how to fill out those forms and what forms are due when. All of our forms are due on August 1st. That's a health form. There's student athlete forms that Courtney also mentioned. There's the immunization verification form that includes COVID-19. All of that you will hear several messages about, but you can see right there the link. It'll go to Emmons, and there'll be instructions also about how your student can access their own health portal through there. We are requiring proof of negative COVID test at move-in. So students will need to provide a proof of a negative COVID test within the last couple days, and you'll receive a message as we get closer to actual move-in, what types of tests we're accepting for the proof of negative test and kind of how you can show that. But Marcus was mentioning we'll all be out there on the JSC quad. Emmons Wellness Center will be out there. Will be some of the folks who are checking the negative COVID tests. We will be out there with you all. A little bit about kind of our campus safety protocols. As we know, COVID is ever changing. It's a little bit unpredictable. Looks like it's here to stay, at least for a while. So we're continuing to monitor campus positivity, but also we look really closely and we're monitoring LA County case positivity, just as well as the LA County guidance. And a lot of that is how we come up with Oxy specific guidance for COVID. So nothing right now is set in stone for fall, but I can tell you a little bit about what we've done, what we're doing this summer, and what we've done during the past academic year to keep students, staff, and faculty, everybody here, healthy in the times of COVID. So currently Oxy has an indoor mask mandate. Everybody, regardless of vaccination status, everybody's wearing a mask indoors, except when you're eating, or if you're in a room alone, you don't have to wear one then. We are currently, during the summer, providing COVID PCR testing 3 days a week. And we also have medical staff on hand to provide and administer rapid tests for anyone who is displaying active COVID symptoms. And during the past academic year, we required regular testing for certain higher risk cohorts of students. So student athletes, performers, students who were, frequently in close contact with other students, we would require regular testing. And if they're a part of a higher risk cohort, they would be alerted by their coach or their theater professor. Somebody would let them know. We also required mandatory weekly testing for anybody who was unvaccinated and had a valid medical or religious exemption. And so testing may look similar this fall. It's just sort of, we're keeping an eye on it, and we will have testing on campus. It's unclear who is going to be mandated to test weekly. A little bit about caring for students when they do test positive for COVID. So as many people have tested positive for COVID across the world, we take care of our students when they test positive. We have a really collaborative process in place to keep the students safe and to keep those around them safe and healthy. So our COVID operations medical team will contact all students who test positive to go over their symptoms. They'll follow up with and monitor symptoms of students who have a little bit more severe symptoms throughout the weeks. Our medical team does contact tracing in order to alert others who might have been exposed to somebody who tested positive for COVID. We work really closely with the residential education and housing services team to ensure that students have a room to isolate in during their mandatory isolation period. And then we work really closely with dining to ensure that students get meals delivered every day during their isolation. And our Dean of Students office also works really closely with this team and this collaborative process to reach out to individual professors as needed, to request accommodations for students who cannot leave their isolation room to get to class for any reason. And then just lastly, really quick, another note about move-in. It's really important to note that any parents and any family members who are going to be on campus helping your students move in also are required to be fully vaccinated. And so Dana's team will be requiring proof of COVID vaccination at the family orientation check-in. I think that's all I've got. Thank you, Courtney.
Yes, thank you, Devin. I am going to invite you to stay though, because now is a chance for us to kind of turn to the Q&A that we've been receiving. So if all of my panelists can come back on screen, we've covered a lot of information, and I know our amazing admission officers have been answering lots of questions behind the scenes, but I want to go ahead and look at a few specific questions that came in just that this group could answer. So in our remaining time, if there is something that you want to hear from us, please, again, use that Q&A feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and let's see how many questions we can answer before we run out of time in our session. So some kind of practical questions about move-in. There's a question of like, where do we ship items for when people come to campus? How do we get all their belongings to campus? And as we mentioned, with so many of you coming from so far away, we're expecting you probably have a few more things than you can fit in your one carry-on when you get to Oxy. And so the answer is yes. You can ship it in advance. And so one of the things we'll be providing with your additional move-in and housing information later in the summer are the instructions for how to ship that. So you should just make a mental note. There will be a designated address you can ship your materials to. You will put your own name on it, and it will be here when you get to Oxy. as long as you follow a few of the instructions that we send your way over the summer. And that's regardless of when you're arriving on campus. I'm sure, Marcus, you've seen it at the check-in for orientation. You know, you have a mix of students who are rolling the bags that you know they flew with them, or you have the ones who are going with their family to get the boxes that they picked up. So you will not be the only one trying to get some of your goods into your residence halls. So lots of information about that to come. Another kind of orientation question is about transfer students getting to meet each other. And I think, again, just really want to highlight, we are as excited about our incoming transfer students as we are our incoming first-year students. Marcus, can you mention just a couple of the highlights for transfer students to be able to connect with their fellow kind of upper division students on campus?
Sure. Most definitely. And this even goes into the training that we do for our O team leaders. We have a training that's hosted in conjunction with the Transfer Student Union. So we have a lot of intentionality in regard to that experience that is specific to a transfer student. So those transfer students are actually grouped into those clusters that I was talking about before. And those students are specifically trained, and those O team leaders have been transfer students. So we're that close to identifying all these specific needs for these individuals. Now, during the program itself, we also have a transfer student luncheon that's specifically just for them. We have a transfer student beach day that's specifically just for them. Now, there's going to be other activities that we have for them to network and tailored communication, like I was talking about before, that will also include how to get involved with clubs, organizations, intramural, club sports, student government, leadership positions on campus, etc. And that's all going to be very specific to making sure that, yes, there's a community within the transfer students, but also that they participate with the other student populations as well. So we're thinking about that. Great question. Appreciate that one.
And just, I'll speak for Dana to say that we, of course, also would love for the families of transfer students to be a part of family orientation. You are seeing them through the next step of their journey, and we want to make sure you feel ready to also be part of that Oxy community.
Absolutely, Courtney. Thank you.
Now, there are some questions about housing, and I want you to, everyone, of course, first of all, take a deep breath, because your first step in housing is just submitting that housing form by July 1st. So there really isn't a lot of information that happens before then. One thing, though, sometimes people are worried because they don't already have a roommate, where actually that's the right answer, because of course you don't have a roommate yet. You haven't met each other. Like maybe you've been chatting on the Discord, and that's great. But when you get into that housing form, you see we ask some fabulous questions to really get to know you, especially in your living style. Like thinking about who you want a room with is going to relate a lot more than just to whether you get along with them online over the summer, but to, you know, the things you listen to, the times you get up in the morning, how tidy your room really needs to be. So one goal as you look at that housing form is I would like you to be honest and not aspirational. And so by that, I mean, don't say how tidy you want to be, like say how clean you really are, right? Don't say what time you actually want to get up in the morning because you have all these lofty goals about how many laps you will run. Maybe say what time you actually get up in the morning, and that will help you be much more connected. So anyone in our Q&A who's worried about how we get roommates, that's really the magic of that housing form. One question though, there are some student athletes who are wondering, like, will they be automatically matched with other student athletes? And so the answer is no. We're actually really going to put you together with other people. Now, putting into the form that you're a student athlete and that's going to affect your schedule is going to be taken into consideration, because of course we do want to match you with someone who isn't going to be totally overwhelmed if you're getting up really early to go to a practice. And so that'll be part of that information. And often as a result, athletes do end up living together, but it's not a guarantee, and it's really more tied in to the overall community building goals of the housing. Now, whenever we talk about first years and transfer students, I think there was some question of just clarity around language. And we use first year at Oxy instead of the word you might be more used to, which is freshman. But because we are as inclusive of a campus as we can be, we prefer the term first year. But for your mental switch, if you're like, what are they talking about? That means the student who is coming to Oxy from high school, and maybe other colleges refer to as a freshman or a fresh person. And we like to call them first years at Oxy, who then become sophomores and juniors and seniors. Anyone else have anything to add around some special Oxy language that people might get used to? Great. Well, that'll be definitely one that sticks in your head. We also have then, of course, transfer students who are starting as sophomores and juniors. So we do try to group transfer together. We know some of you might be at a higher level than the other, but things like first year seminars and stuff that are required for our incoming students from high school are not required for transfer. So you can kind of look for those two categories. There is some questions about work study. And Marcus, I know you have a lot of student workers in your office, specifically like those orientation coordinators who become the program coordinators and continue to do things. I can talk more about the process of applying to work study jobs, but would any of you like to talk about just kind of the value of the student worker experience on campus? Because I know that's something we all love, but also rely on to do our jobs. Maybe Marcus, you want to talk a little bit about that first?
Sure, it's a wonderful experience. Really what's special for Occidental, and I think that it's really pointed to say that students are only allowed to work a certain amount of hours on campus because we want to prioritize academics and then the co-curricular experience and the whole student development. So what we try to do is make sure that students have an experience that's meaningful and dynamic, but what we have them do is they can work a couple of different jobs. They'll be an admissions tour guide, but also a program coordinator for Slice, or they'll work in the Green Bean, but also be, working in the ICC and the Intercultural Community Center. So these different experiences, what we allow students to do is there's constant communication between supervisors, and we're talking to students so that they can make a really good decision, be authentic about the positions that they want to hold on campus. So typically what you do find is that we'll meet with students to talk about what the experience is as far as like the expectations within the office. And then we'll also communicate with other people across the, across departments and say, hey, I understand the student's already working for you. They want to put a couple hours in here. We're talking with the student as well about this. And so students really do have an opportunity to dip their toes in the water of student employment at Occidental in varied and dynamic ways. And so it really is that small liberal arts campus vibe that allows students to flourish within different offices and have different experiences throughout their time here at Occidental College. And so that's where we really see the student employment. And what I can say is the investment that the institution makes in student employment, as somebody who manages the division's budget for student affairs, the amount of dollars that we put behind making sure that we employ students and provide that professional development experience that is very much managerial development skill sets and its close touch points with supervisors that they work with on a consistent basis. So Courtney, I appreciate you laying that context there, because I've worked at other institutions, and to have this sort of care provided to students as they are growing as people in the workforce and looking at developing those skills that post-grad are going to be accessible, whether that's going to grad school, whether that's going into the workforce, whatever the case may be, they are truly walking out with a different sort of skill set and understanding in regards to meaning making within a student employment model at Oxy.
And Dana?
Yeah, I just have something else to add is that I think I wholeheartedly agree with you, Marcus, on everything you mentioned. I have employed student workers in my office pretty much every year, and I really look forward to building those relationships with our students. One thing I do want to share though is that as a student manager, I think that we are all very understanding about the demands that students face as being a college student, whether they are academic or co-curricular. And so I feel really confident in speaking among my colleagues that we understand that students have a lot going on their plates. And so we want to work with them on what works best for their schedule, and particularly knowledgeable around those crunch times of midterms and finals. So I think for students that are looking for work study jobs, employment on campus, just being open and honest with their manager about what their schedule demands are, and particularly high pressure points. And I am most confident that flexibility can be made around their schedule for working.
Yep, absolutely. And so for some of the practical instructions, first of all, you should know there are on-campus for jobs for students with work study and without work study. So if you are not someone who received a work study award, there are definitely still jobs you can find on campus if that's something you're looking for. Specifically for work study, the Career Center actually leads a program to help the incoming students with work study get connected with campus jobs. So that's one of the pieces of information we'll be sharing with you later in the summer, so that you have all of those steps. So you do not need to be worried about looking for those jobs or applying for them now. That information will be coming soon, and you'll really get to partner with the Career Center also in using this as a first opportunity to build some of your job search skills and interviewing and resumes and putting those pieces together, because the Career Center is excited to work with you for all 4 years. And this is just a great way to get things started. There are some practical questions Devin, for you about some of the COVID testing and even kind of health insurance forms and things. Just to clarify, when the student moves in and needs to show a negative COVID test, is that a PCR test? Is that an at-home test? What should the expectation be?
Yeah, we will definitely provide instructions that a little bit closer to move in, but a PCR test for sure is acceptable. A rapid test is acceptable, but at-home tests are not. So it needs to be done at a health clinic, at a test site, something where you're going to get a printout that says it's a negative result and the type of test it was, not bringing us a photo of a test that you did at home or bringing us the actual test. So somewhere from a legitimate testing site. But
Yep.
We will also have that information on our website and provide it several times.
Exactly. So just keep that in your mind, just so you're thinking about expectations and know that lots of details are coming. I think a very also practical question, Devin, about if there's like a medical emergency, do students need to have some sort of, power of attorney health form filled out so that the parents know that their student's care is with you? I feel like this is more of an issue of like, well, we have student health insurance and they have access to it. Is there a 30-second version of that answer? I feel like that's a whole hour webinar on its own, Devin, but what's the quick?
It's kind of a lot. Yeah, students are required to have health insurance. They don't necessarily have to have the Oxy student health insurance, but it is an option for everyone. Students have to have insurance that covers primary care in the Los Angeles area. So if you have something that only covers you for your medical group in a different state, it probably won't meet the requirements. And then we would have to get you connected to the OSHIP insurance, which is a great option. And all of the required forms will be on that My Health portal. I don't believe that we have a power of attorney form, but we have several forms. They will all be listed there, and they will all be on file for your students.
Yes, so that really will be the place where you see all that information. All right, we're running very close on time, so I'm going to answer just a couple more questions that came in about housing. All of the residence halls have a bed for each student, a desk for each student, a dresser for each student. So when you're thinking about what you're coming to campus with, know that it is not those things, right? We're not expecting you all to bring your own furniture. That is provided. We also have a mini fridge and microwave in every room, and not to have one of those back in my day stories, but Dana and I did not have those when we lived on campus. Just saying, very, very amazing to have that in each residence hall. So there's a lot that you do not need to bring with you to campus. So there will be a really helpful list that housing provides of things that you might want to bring, like such as working out with your roommates who brings, a rug or a TV or whatever that is, even if you needed a TV these days, since we can just watch everything on our computers. So I feel like I'm just dating myself if I try to answer this question, but know that there's a lot of helpful things already in the residence hall, and that you will be able to get lots more information, especially as we release information in August about roommates and housing assignments. So all that to say is today was just a quick overview. Devin, anything you want to add before I wrap us up?
Yeah, just really quick. I was noticing in the chat, one of the questions was somebody asking about kind of the scheduling of their vaccination and boosters. And maybe you just recently got your first doses and you're not going to be, you're not eligible yet to get the booster. That's fine. So in that case, we are requiring boosters. So we're requiring vaccination and boosters, original series plus, extra dose. But if you're not eligible, then you're not eligible. And so we are going to be planning some booster clinics for the fall. So no problem there. You can get boosted when you're on campus if you don't have it and you're not eligible this summer. That's it.
Thank you, Devin. I appreciate you taking an answer for that. So let's stay in touch is the real takeaway, right? This is not the only time you're going to hear from us or even see us. In fact, something I want you to look forward to, and that more information will be coming out your way, is at the end of July and beginning of August, we're actually going to get together. We are going to have an event that we call Summer Send-Off. And these are receptions that are held all across the country in the hopes that maybe where you are, you'll be able to get yourself to one of these events and meet other incoming students and families who are going to be part of the Oxy community. So stay tuned. Lots more fun information to come for that. I want to give another shout out for the online information session being held tomorrow for the special programs available to first-year students. So this is the California Immigration Semester and the Humanities for Social Justice course, also the free summer online course about health justice. Dana, something you want to plug before we go?
Yes. After we do our summer send-offs and our orientation family events, you are all welcome to come back to Oxy's campus October 21 and 22 for our homecoming and family weekend. We're in the midst of planning reunion weekend right now, but as soon as that's done, it's on to homecoming and family weekend. It's a 2-day wonderful experience to just check out what your students been doing, and we can't wait to see you then.
So thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you to our panelists. We will have the recording of this session posted on the new student guide tomorrow, and I'm sure you are all going to become even more acquainted with that website than you were after today. So thank you everyone for being here. We're going to go ahead and stop our recording. Our behind the scenes folks will stick around for another minute and try to answer a few last questions, but otherwise reach out to us, stay in touch. Thank you, and Yo Triumphi. We'll see you August, one of those days. We'll see you in August. Thanks, everybody.